Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Mason Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Siddha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Siddha Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Mishtai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10. Mason's actually text 37 through 40, so you can just edit that, please. Okay, I'm just going to read the first verse, and then we'll repeat that, and then I'll just read through the rest on my own. Praja Patin Devan, Manun Devan Rishin Pitri Ganan Pratak Siddha Charana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Asura Guhyakan Prajapatin Manun Devan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan. Please repeat. Prajapatin Manun Devan Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan
Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadhra Suraguhyakan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak
Mataris. Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitriganan Pratak Sadhachara Gandharvan Vidyatra Suraguhyakan Prajapatin Manundevan Vishin Pitrikanan Pitak Sadhachara Gandharvan Vidyatra Suraguhyakan. How does it usually work? They read through all the Sanskrit and then the word for word, like one of the longer ones? Okay, I'll just read through the whole thing. Prajapatin Manundevan Rishin Pitrikanan Pratak Siddhacharana Gandharvan Vidyadra Suraguhyakan Kinarap Saraso Nagan Sarpan Kimpurushan Naran Matre Raksha Pishan Kamscha Pretabhuta Vinayakan Kushmandon Madavetalan Yatudhanan Grahanapi Kagan Rikan Pashun Rikshan Girinripa Sarishripan Dvividhas Chaturvidha Yenye Jalastala Nabokasa Kushala Mishra Karmanam Gatayas Tvimaha Prajapatin Brahma and his sons like Daksha and others. Manun, the periodical heads like Vaishvata Manu. Devan, like Indra, Charana, and Varuna. Chandra and Varuna. Rishin, like Bhrigu and Vashishta. Pitri Ganan, the inhabitants of the Pita planets. Pratak, separately. Siddha, the inhabitants of the Siddha planet. Charana, the inhabitants of the Charana planet. Gandharvan, the inhabitants of the Gandharva planets. Vidyadhara, the inhabitants of the Vidyadhara planet. Asura, the atheists. Guhyakan, the inhabitants of the Yaksha planets. Okay, I'll just go to the translation of here so we don't have to read through that whole thing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O King, know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksha, the periodical heads like Vaishvata Manu, the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, the great sages like Bhrigu, Vyas, and Vashishta, the inhabitants of Pitriloka and Siddhaloka, the Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnaras, and angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kimpurushas, the human beings, the inhabitants of Matriloka, the demons, Pishachas, ghosts, spirits, lunatics, and evil spirits, the good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forests, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities born from embryos, from eggs, from perspiration, and from seeds, and all others, whether they be in the water, land, or sky, in happiness and distress, or in mixed happiness and distress. All of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord. Purport. The varieties of living entities are mentioned in this list, and with no exception from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet of the universe, all of them in different species of life are created by the Almighty Father Vishnu. Therefore, no one is independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 4, the Lord therefore claims all living entities as his offspring in the following verse. Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiyaha tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradaf pita. The material nature is compared to the mother. Although every living being is seen to come out of the mother's body, it is still a fact that the mother is not the ultimate cause of such a birth. The father is the ultimate cause of birth. Without the father's seed, no mother can give birth to a child. Therefore, the living beings in different varieties of forms and positions within the innumerable universes are all born of the seeds of the Almighty Father, the personality of Godhead. And only to the man with a poor fund of knowledge, they appear to be born of the material nature. Being under the material energy of the Supreme Lord, all living entities, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ants, are manifested in different bodies according to their past deeds. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 7, chapter 7, text 4. The material nature is inferior in comparison to the living entities, the superior nature. The superior nature and inferior nature of the Lord combine to manifest all universal affairs. Some of the living entities are relatively happy in better conditions of life, whereas others are in distressed conditions of life. But factually, none of them are actually happy in material conditional life. No one can be happy in prison life, although one may be a first-class prisoner and another a third-class prisoner. The intelligent person should not try to be promoted from third-class prison life to first-class prison life, but should try to be released from the prison altogether. One may be promoted to first-class prisoner, but the same first-class prisoner is again degraded to a third-class prisoner in the next term. One should try to be free from prison life and go back home, back to Godhead. That is the real goal for all types of living entities. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyana Jana Shalakaya Chakshru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Nitinamine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yatatevi Tatagaro Tasyaite Katita Hirta Prakashante Mahatmanaha Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chavaksasi Yasya Ste Hriday Samvittam Nasimham Maham Bhaje Prajapatin Manundevan Rishin Pitri Ganan Pratak Siddhacharna Gandharvan Vidyadhara Suraguhyakan. O King, know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksha, the periodical heads like Vaishvata Manu, the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, the great sages like Bhrigu, Vyas, and Vashishta, the inhabitants of Pitraloka and Siddhaloka, the Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnaras, and angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kimpurushas, the human beings, the inhabitants of Matraloka, the demons, Pishachas, ghost spirits, lunatics, and evil spirits, the good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forest, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities born from embryos, from eggs, from perspiration, and from seeds, and all others, whether they be in water, land, or in sky, in happiness and distress, or in mixed happiness and distress. All of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord. So here we have something that is directly going against this current proliferated idea by the scientists of evolution and this Big Bang happened and everything was inert matter, and then everything was expanding and it arranged itself in a certain way. Stars were formed from these atoms that came together, and then through that there's also more matter outside the stars, outside the gravitational pull, and that became planets, and all these things happened. And then eventually the Earth formed, and then asteroids came and they had water in them, and this formed the oceans, and then all of this happened, and eventually, I don't know the exact, maybe I'm getting some of the details wrong, but eventually some chemicals reacted in water or in lava or something like that, and created these single-celled organisms, and then those evolved and eventually became fish, and then the fish sprouted legs and went on the land and got lungs as well somehow. And eventually, we came up to monkeys, and then monkeys, somehow got some cognitive abilities. Some people speculate that they took psychedelic mushrooms, and then they started being able to think like a human being and problem solve and build tools. And all of this happened, and now we're here. So this is the current paradigm that's accepted by the scientists, but this is directly going against that, and it's saying essentially that all of these living entities are being created simultaneously, you could say. Krishna is creating all of these different species of living entities according to the living entities' past deeds and their desires and their karma. So it's described elsewhere that the universal manifestation is emanating from the pores of Mahavishnu. So every Brahmanda is like a small bubble emanating from one of the pores of Mahavishnu, and you could see that in this painting here in the back corner. And there are countless of these Brahmandas, countless of these universes, within which we are within the smallest of those Brahmandas. And as this is created, as it expands from Mahavishnu, before it, the living entities are in a dormant state when this Brahmanda is not outside of Lord Vishnu's body. And of course, that we learn that this is happening through the breathing process of Mahavishnu. So as Mahavishnu breathes out, these universes emanate, and then as he breathes in, they retract and go back into him. So, these living entities are within this state of slumber, you could say, this state of unconsciousness within Mahavishnu. And then as the universe expands, Vishnu impregnates this universe, this material universe, with all of the living entities, and he gives them bodies according to their past deeds, their karma, and their desires. So what they deserve and what they desire. It's a combination of both. And so all of these 8.4 million species of life are simultaneously created, you could say, or populated, which again, it goes directly against this current atheistic conclusion of the scientists that life is ultimately come from a combination of matter. And this is easily debunked by just simple logic and simply checking to see if that has ever been proven, if they've ever been able to create life from matter. Even in the lab, they can't create a single blade of grass, what to speak of the complexity of a human body or any other animal species. They can't come anywhere close to it. They can't even create a single blade of grass. They can't create a single-celled organism even. So this is, again, this is directly, you could say, fighting against that, you could say, or you could just say proving the foolishness of modern science, that they think that this material nature, which is in this purport compared to, you could say, I guess, a female, and that Krishna is the father. The material nature is like the mother, and Krishna is like the father that's giving the seed to the mother to impregnate the living entities within this material nature. So this material nature alone, as a mother, it can't create this life. It can't create these living entities on its own. It needs the impetus, the input of the Father, of Krishna. And so it's stating here that this includes all the way from Brahma, all the way down to, and it's describing all these different living entities. I was speaking to Curtis yesterday actually about this. He was asking if ghosts are real, and here's some more proof for you from the Bhagavatam. It's talking about ghosts, spirits, evil spirits, all these different things. So scientists have no idea of these different species because they're solely basing their information and their conclusions from their limited sense perception that is prone to mistakes and all these defects, as we know. So, I just wanted to make that point, that there's so many different varieties of living entities that we can't even perceive of. And actually it's said that every single planet is populated with so many different living entities. And so, again, according to their karma and their guna and their karma and their desires, they're given these different forms of life. And then once we're given this form of life, as the universe is created, we transmigrate through different forms of life as we remain shackled in this material world under these shackles of lust, anger, and greed. These things are keeping us in this prison house, as Prabhupada is describing in the purport here. Let's see what I say. In this Bhagavad Gita verse that's quoted here, Sarva Yonishu Konteya Murtaya Sambhavantiya Yaha Tasham Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradaf Pita. So this material nature again is compared to the mother. And every living being is seen to come out of the mother's body, but we know, anybody with a basic understanding can understand that the mother isn't the ultimate cause of that birth, it's the father's seed. That's the point being made here, that Krishna is the ultimate cause of that. He's giving us these bodies and letting us play out our desires in material nature, and we are completely unaware of that fact for the most part. Most people are just in complete ignorance of that. And they're going about, again, as if this material nature itself, this inert matter, has created these conditions for consciousness to arise, for the spirit to arise, but they don't even have actually any conception of spirit. They're not able to differentiate between matter and spirit. There's also this verse I was reminded of in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Tyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetanane Nakonteya Jagadvi Parivartate, that this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So this is what Bhakti was referring to last night a little bit in this class, that this material nature and the system through which the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another isn't necessarily that Krishna is very intensely overseeing. I mean, he's overseeing it, of course, as the Paramatma within our heart, seeing what we're doing, but he's created this system to kind of run on its own, you could say, that it's a perfect system, and it's simply running on automatically, creating different bodies and allowing the spirit soul to transmigrate from birth to birth and experience these different fulfillments of the different desires that it has in material nature. Another verse I was thinking of was this, actually the one that Nali was speaking on last night, this Matav Padataram Nanyat Kinchirasti Nananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Suche Mani Ganayuva, thank you. 7:7. And this is the analogy of the pearls strung on a thread. So, a conqueror of wealth, there's no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So, ultimately, these bodies and all of this material nature and the different elements and the subtle and gross elements and the planet that we're on, everything is resting upon Krishna as pearls are strung on a thread. But again, because we have this desire to exist separately from Krishna, to forget Krishna, which is the reason that we've come into this material world, he is somewhat hidden, you could say, from our material vision. And he has obliged us in that way to allow us to play out our childish desires without having to think about him. So he is this string that is the pearls are strung upon. And when you have a necklace of pearls, you can't see the string, but again, anyone that knows anything about it knows that if you simply cut the string in one place, all of those pearls will fall off and the necklace will no longer exist. So Krishna is the person that is holding all of this together. He through his external energy, this entire world is manifested, this entire material world is created, and it's being held up by him. There's also this spoken of that Anantashesh, all the Brahmandas are resting on the hood of Anantashesh. So actually, and also, Balaram is this force of gravity and this force that's keeping planets floating in the air and not falling into the what is this, the ocean called? What is it? Garbadak, Garbadak Ocean. So it's, everything is resting on the strength of Krishna to keep this material world afloat and keep us, again, in this situation where we're able to play out these desires. So, again, this atheistic idea is that it's all random, and that, we're in these human bodies, and this life is all in all, and an ant is in that body, and that its life is all in all, and it's just a combination of matter, and, we just happen to be born into a human form of life, they happen to be born into the ant form of life, but actually it's all just chemicals, it's all just dead matter at the end of the day, and consciousness is simply a combination of different chemicals happening in the brain and different reactions that are going on that lead us to believe that, we are a person and all these things happen. So it's a very atheistic idea, and we understand it completely differently by simply studying Bhagavad Gita, and we understand that we are the spirit soul and we're transmigrating from birth to birth, and we have actually been in all these different forms of life. And ultimately we understand that this idea that life comes from life. There's this amazing book by Srila Prabhupada that life comes from life. It's a completely opposite conception to the material scientists, that they think life comes from dead matter, and it makes no sense. So, the ultimate point of this purport, or at least one of the points that's being made, is that material nature, it can't do anything without the superior nature. You put two chemicals, or you don't put them anywhere, just have two chemicals anywhere, and they're not going to do anything. They're not going to come together and create anything. If you have iron and, like plastic and what else goes into a phone, like glass, what is glass made of? Like sand, yeah, exactly. So you have all the raw ingredients of an iPhone. An iPhone's not going to just manifest magically out of that. It takes someone that understands engineering, understands a bit of material science, understands how to create glass, how to create metals from like raw elements within the earth, how to program software and create this LED screen, and then the touch screen element that it takes an electrical impetus from our fingers that it's our bodies have small like amounts of electricity running through them, and it takes that and senses. So it has all these complexities. Dead matter can never just combine into an iPhone, but they think that dead matter can combine into something that's so much more complicated, like a human body. And another amazing thing is that every iPhone is the same, whereas every human body is completely different. Even day to day, each individual human body is different from the last day, and it'll be different the next day. So they're all unique creations, and it's really like, if you're a fan of art or music or anything like that, or you're an appreciator of creative things, you can really appreciate the artistic beauty of all the different kinds of bodies and species that Krishna has created, again, for us to be able to enjoy this material world. And of course, this is just a reflection of the spiritual world, where all these things exist in their complete fullness and without these defects, material defects. They're not temporary. But you can really begin to appreciate the beauty of Krishna's design and his artistry to create something so amazing that it's a self-propagating machine, as Nali was speaking of yesterday, that these bodies are designed in such a way that they can create more human bodies, and then it goes on and on and on. Whereas, again, an iPhone, it's created and then it's kind of just there, and then eventually it just stops working so well, the charger might not work as well, and then it slows down, and then you have to get a new one. It doesn't create more iPhones on its own. So it's really an amazing feat of engineering, you could say, that's so much beyond our conception. So another point that I wanted to make that Prabhupada is speaking of here in the purport is that this prison house. So some of the living entities are relatively happy in better conditions of life, whereas others are in distressed conditions of life. But factually, none of them are actually happy in material conditional life. So the point being made here is that actually there is no happiness in this material world. There's no love in this material world. And it can be a hard pill to swallow for someone that's never heard that before, never thought of this concept before. But, one thing that I was told when I first got here that really struck me and has stuck with me since is this idea of familial love. So, we are very, at least in the West, it might not be so prevalent, but we have familial connections, our parents and our siblings and such. And we grow up in a house, and, these people take care of us, they raise us, and, they seem to very much care for us. And they do in their own materialistic way. They do care for us in that way. But again, it's based on the bodily concept that this is my son, this is my daughter, and I'm going to care for them because I love them because they're my son. But you do a simple experiment that you try to think, if I was born in the house next door to my parents, would they still feel the same way about me? And it's so easy to conclude that of course they wouldn't, because you look at what they say about their neighbors, and they're either neutral or negative about other people, or always trying to one-up each other in this society that, they got a nice car, so I'm going to get a nicer car. They got a boat, I'm going to get a nicer boat, this kind of thing. And ultimately, they don't care so much for the children of the next-door neighbor because it's not their child. So this love it's kind of a facade, it's kind of a show. It's, again, based on the bodily idea of life. And so this idea of happiness and love in this material world is actually, it's a myth. It's heard of but never experienced. It's like a mirage in the desert. You might see some water in the desert, and it looks like you're about to approach a spring of fresh water and be able to quench your thirst, but as you approach it, it disappears, and it becomes, you realize that you were just seeing a mirage. So this happiness, again, it's all heard of, it's all discussed and talked about, and everyone's putting on this show. There's this story that Parameshwar Prabhu says, this analogy of a circus comes to town. And this really struck me when I heard it, so I like to remember it from time to time, that a circus comes to town, and everybody is very excited to go see what's in the circus, and it costs $5 to go in. So everybody lines up, and they're letting in one person at a time to see what's in the circus. And if you've ever been to a circus, it's a closed tent, so you can't see what's happening inside. So everybody's lined up, and people are going in, and when you go inside, you pay and you go inside, and there's just a gang of men there, and they just beat the crap out of you. They just start beating you. And you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? No, stop, please stop. And then they eventually they stop beating you, and then you get up and walk out, and because your friends are there, you don't want to look like a complete fool. So instead of coming out with your head down and looking very depressed, you put on a show that actually, oh, this was amazing. That was so awesome in there, That was so cool. You guys can't wait till you go in there. It's so awesome. Because you don't want to seem like a fool. You don't want to look like a complete fool. Even though inside you're a complete fool. You've been tricked and bamboozled. And then everybody goes in and does this exact same thing. And even after everyone's done it, nobody will admit what happened inside. So this is the nature of the material world. This is the nature of material life. Everyone is living in quiet desperation. I think it was Thoreau that said that. Everyone is living in quiet desperation, not sharing the fact that they are deep down very scared of what death is. They are very uncertain about life. They don't know their destination after death. They don't know why they're here in this body. They have no idea where they're going or what they're doing, so they simply just try to enjoy life, eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we shall all die. They take up this philosophy and they just live to the fullest in terms of sense gratification. But the more they do this, the more they gratify their senses, the more miserable they become. I've experienced this firsthand. You can have the most amazing vacation. I remember one time in college, I got the chance to, one of my roommates, his aunt or something, in LA was going out of town, so they needed a house sitter. So they had this huge mansion, and I somehow got the chance to go do it. So I got to go live in LA for a month, rent-free. I got paid to do it, and I just was living in a mansion by myself, enjoying life. I was going to concerts and going to the beach every day and just having a good time, riding my skateboard. And I was like, this is the topmost thing. Like, this is like what they say, like, you know, you're living in, I wanted to move to LA before that. So it's like, I'm in LA, you know, where I want to be. Like, the weather's amazing, you know, it's just perfect. But then, like, after a few weeks of that, or after a few days even, it's just like, where is this going? Again, it's like you're that person in the circus. It's like, you've been tricked. Where is the happiness? Where is the satisfaction? And it's just not there. So this is what Prabhupada's talking about here, this first class and third class prisoner. So you might be in a situation where you're born to a billionaire and you have such, you know, as it's said, a metaphorical silver spoon in your mouth, and you have all the facilities for material enjoyment, but ultimately you're not able to find true happiness. It's actually a common thing that children of very rich people, they end up either as drug addicts or they commit suicide or do these things to a unproportionate amount compared to just people born into more normal circumstances, so to speak. Because again, it's this idea that the more I gratify my senses, the more happy I'll be, but this is seen by those that are engaged in that it's not true. So they feel tricked. They don't know where to turn at that point because they've spent their whole entire life chasing after that and thinking that's the goal. And when they finally get to that point, they realize they've been tricked. So, as Prabhupada is saying here, the intelligent person should not try to be promoted from third-class prison life to first-class prison life, but should try to be released from the prison altogether. And, you know, this prison we're in isn't as simple as breaking free from a prison that's maybe, you know, here in the material world in America or something like that, where you know, there's movies where they dig tunnels through, you know, there's that Shawshank Redemption. He has a poster in his wall, and every night he would dig a hole with a spoon, a plastic spoon. He would dig a little bit, and eventually, over some like years, he dug a hole all the way down to like the sewer, and then he was able to get out and escape. So it's not that simple. It's not that we can just somehow find some cheat code, some way to get out by our own endeavor, and that we can break free from this prison in that way. But the way to get out is to gain the favor of the person that can release us. And, you know, it's pretty widely known in America that any prisoner can actually be released if the president simply writes a pardon. So, you know, no matter what someone has done, actually, they can be, you know, a murderer, they can do anything. If the president simply decides to write a single letter and sign their name and say, release this person, they're able to release them. And this person gets off scot-free. They, you know, no conditions, no questions asked. They just get out. Similarly, if we simply turn to the person who has created this prison house for us, and again, it's not that it is a punishment, but it's not that it's done in a malicious way because this is what we desired. If we simply turn to that person who is the president, the warden, you could say, of this prison, Krishna, and surrender to him, sarvadharman pratyaja, we can be freed from all fear and all sinful reactions that are keeping us bound in this world. And we simply engage in this very, very simple process of chanting and dancing and feasting and preaching and sharing this message with anyone and everyone we meet. And we can easily get out of this prison life and escape this, as it's said here, that the intelligent person should be aiming to do. We should be aiming to get out of this. We shouldn't worry, actually, whether we're in the third class or first class. We shouldn't try, okay, well, I'm in the third class prison, but I'll get to the first class and then I'll get free. We shouldn't think in that way. We should simply endeavor from the point we're at right now and realize that ultimately any happiness and distress that we are experiencing in this life is already prescribed for us at birth. You know, again, Parameshwar Prabhu, he said when he was here a while ago that you could either, if you go sit in that corner and just like become a vegetable for the rest of your life, or you go out and build $1 billion business and make tons of money and have a beautiful wife and whatever, either way, you're going to have the exact same amount of happiness and distress, no matter what you do. So there's no point in chasing after this fleeting happiness in the material world because, again, we're prescribed it at the time of birth. So we have to go through a certain amount of distress. We have to go through a certain amount of happiness. And the wise person isn't swayed by these things, isn't attracted to these things, isn't like averse to the suffering, and isn't attracted to the happiness, because they understand ultimately that it is all temporary, and it's on the material platform, and it's temporary, and it's related to this body. And again, there's no changing what we have been prescribed at birth, so we have to just go through it either way. So the one with actual intelligence understands that, okay, well, what I can do in this human life is I can endeavor for Krishna consciousness. I can practice Krishna consciousness, and I can't do that in any other form of life. So I can, try to understand this Shastra. I can inquire from a spiritual master, submit to a spiritual master. I can surrender to a spiritual master, take initiation from a spiritual master. All these things are things that human beings can do that animals are not able to do. And so while we're in this rare human form of life, we should fully endeavor, fully surrender, and quickly endeavor in this way. Quickly endeavor and with enthusiasm and with urgency. Another analogy I was thinking about with this whole third-class prisoner and first-class prisoners, in the material world, there are plenty of examples of this actually. There's this Guantanamo Bay that's like you could say the third class, whatever the lowest class prison that there would be. Now this is where they keep the war criminals, the terrorists, people that aren't even actually under the jurisdiction. I think what they're doing is actually illegal in a lot of cases, but they're not under the jurisdiction of the maybe the U.S. government. It's basically a military prison. So they keep people there, and they don't have to answer to the judicial system, and they are able to torture them and do all kinds of horrible things. The living conditions there are just, as bad as it gets. And then all the way at the top, there's, like people that commit financial crimes that are, billionaires or whatever. They have, basically it's like a resort that they go to for prison. They have tennis courts, and they have a spa, and they have all kinds of nice facilities. So it's basically like a vacation for them. And they continue working on their business. They have probably a cell phone, and they're able to still run their business from that situation. So, money talks in that way. And, there's these different prisons, different situations of prison life in this, just in this country alone that we can see. And from that we can understand as well that similarly there are different conditions of life in the material world. There's the, heavenly planets that, are like this billionaire prison. And it seems very nice, it seems very enjoyable, but as soon as you realize that it's actually a prison, you realize that, okay, well, there's something wrong here, I have to get out of this. But again, most people in the material world are simply under the illusion that, they're not aware that this is a prison. They're not aware that they need to get out of this. They think, again, this life is all in all. I should just enjoy my life and gratify my senses to the fullest extent, as long as I'm not hurting anyone else, so I can do whatever I want. And ultimately, they're not aware that they need to get out of this situation, that they're in a very urgent, very dire situation, and that they're also in a very rare situation having this human form of life, that they can actually, this is a loophole in the material world. This is the way out of this situation. So they're not aware of this, and because of that, they are suffering in so many different ways, whether they know it or not. And our goal in life should be to wake people up to this fact. We should be very eager to travel around and spread the message of this Srimad Bhagavatam, this Bhagavad Gita, that Srila Prabhupada has so kindly given to us, brought to us. Even though we're so unqualified, we are so, from such degraded backgrounds, such sinful backgrounds, that engaging in all these sinful activities, we should we should become grateful for the situation that we're in, because we've been given the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas through these books and through the spiritual master and through the association of devotees, through amazing facilities like here at Krishna Life, that the amount of struggle and sacrifice that went into creating this place and getting this place is really amazing. Mahotsa Prabhu says, you don't know what went into putting that plate of prasadam in front of you. Not only the sacrifices of course, the devotees here and, that came before us, that established this Krishna life, and, our spiritual master, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, that, is the inspiration behind this project and the inspiration behind, so many of our material our spiritual lives. But all the Vaishnavacharyas, all the sacrifices they made, Srila Prabhupada came over on this boat and had heart attacks on his way over to America, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur almost was killed for what he was preaching, and he kept going, and he, all the acharyas that they made so many sacrifices, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami left their very opulent lives in order to live as mendicants in Vrindavan and preach and spread this and write these books for us. So there's just countless sacrifices that have been made that we can't even understand, the insignificant little sacrifices that we might make in our lives to be more Krishna conscious are, again, Krishna appreciates it, but in comparison to the incredible austerities and sacrifices and efforts that have been made by the predecessor acharyas to bring us these books, we have to understand that and move forward with that in mind, that my duty is to take up this work and do it with a full enthusiasm and not waste a single moment in mundane activities, like, even thinking about mundane activities or engaging in mundane talks, or, just wasting time idling, doing idle talks and just wasting time. We wasted enough time, especially for me. I joined so late that I wasted almost 30 years and, how many lifetimes before that. But now is the time to take it up seriously. Now is the time to seize the moment and move forward and distribute these books with full force. Mahotsa Prabhu has this goal that he wants us to distribute 1,000 Western Bhagavatams this year, and it can definitely be done, but it needs a lot of effort on all of our parts. I need to step up my game as well. So we're going to continue to build an enthusiasm every day, try to be more and more enthusiastic every single day, more and more persistent, more and more disciplined. Get rid of these pesky anarthas that are holding us back from engaging fully in Krishna consciousness. And just stop being so mental, stop being so on the mental platform. We tell people when we go to colleges that we're trying to help people get off the mental platform, if they ask us what we're doing. So this is the goal, and to spread these books, spread this knowledge, get people out of this material prison life and let them forget that, forget about being promoted to a first-class prisoner. Just simply understand that you are a prisoner first, and then understand how to get out of this prison life. So I'll end my class there. I'm supposed to end early, so if there are any comments or questions, please feel free to ask. Yes, Prabhu. It's not on.
It doesn't work. So one of the arguments I recently found out that an atheist makes, the denial of God, is that the body is actually poorly designed. So therefore it's not it's not something marvelous, it's actually poorly designed.
Wow.
So what do you think is the reply? I just thought I'd bring that out and share.
I mean, that's surprising to me. Like, from my perspective, like, you put, like, of some food stuff in your body, and then it's able to just like digest. It has this whole digestive system that's able to like process that and take all the nutrients out of it, and then like nurture, just have your whole body like sustained. And then like the eyeball, you just take an eyeball for example and see how complex it is, how it's like, I don't even understand the science behind it, but it's like rotating an image and flipping it, and then it's able to just, in the brain, I mean, it's able to process so many millions of things. Like, it's more powerful than any computer processor they can build. So you'd have to say that everything that scientists have ever created is bad design in comparison, like much worse than the human body. It's self-proliferating. It's a engineering feat that has the ability to create more of itself, and also you combine like a man and a woman, and their genes are like combined into like a new unique thing. And that's another thing is like, yeah, it's engineering, but also I was thinking in terms of like artistry. I don't know, this is maybe mundane, but just like that, just like the human, it's like a work of art. It's like every artist makes a piece of art, and every single piece is unique. Whereas again, the iPhone is every single piece is the same. Every single Toyota Prius is the same Toyota Prius. They might change the color, but that's it. But every single part of it is exactly the same. Whereas every human being is completely different, and they're all working. It's like, okay, maybe there are some defects, like some people have like handicaps, or like there's like diseases like polio, and like you like have like paralysis, and then like people are born blind or deaf, these kinds of things. But we understand, through Shastra, that that's like based on karma, and also like Kali Yuga, we're short-lived and we have these problems, so this could be a symptom of, Kali Yuga, that these bodies are defective in so many ways. We also understand that, in previous times they have much longer life, and so yeah, I don't, that seems pretty silly to me, honestly. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's silly also because even if you say it's poorly designed, the fact is that it's designed.
Yeah.
It's so dumb that you think that it just because it's poorly designed, you think that it came about by itself.
Yeah.
That's like their implied, like, messages. Like,
Right.
This could come by evolution because it's like, it's poorly designed. It's not that perfectly designed.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you're saying, actually, another surprising thing that I found out recently is scientists still don't really know why we sleep.
Yeah.
They don't know why we need to take rest.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of theories.
Yeah.
The body's rebuilding, it's conserving energy, blah, 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 blah. But they can't really explain, well, energy you're deriving from foodstuffs, why does your body need to rest?
Yeah.
And they keep, if you Google about this, it's interesting that they'll just say, well, studies point out that sleep helps you and la, 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 la. But that's the result of sleep.
Yeah.
But it
What's
doesn't
the purpose?
describe what exactly the body is doing during sleep and why it needs to do that.
Yeah.
And so therefore they only have theories as far as why you need to sleep. And for something that is so quote unquote poorly designed, they're really poor at explaining the poorly designed thing, because they don't know what a lot of things that are going on in the body, they, like you're saying, they don't really have an explanation.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that was actually an argument. And it's an argument that they actually use,
I mean,
the body's poorly designed, therefore it can come about by evolution. Like what?
Take any material thing like that they make, like cars again, or phones or something. Just for example, like a few years is its lifespan, basically. Like,
for instance, the old phones.
Yeah.
Compared to what they are right now, you can call them poorly designed.
Yeah.
Does that mean they just came about by evolution?
Right.
Or the most, what they call it, they credit the Wright brothers for inventing, air travel.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at what they created, it's really poorly designed compared to a Boeing or Boeing's not a good example these days, but the Airbus or whatever. But it's like, so does that mean that the Wright brothers airplane just came out by evolution or something? It's so silly. It's like ridiculous.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Now he's outside.
Someone burned the khichdi. The khichdi came by design, poorly designed.
I thought that when he said that, the poorly designed for certain tasks. Like there's certain animals that are perfectly able to kill other animals. They have sharp claws. They're perfectly designed for battle. Some animals are perfectly designed for flying. And you can see the human body, really our only outstanding characteristic is our advanced consciousness and intelligence. So, poorly designed for sense gratification maybe, and that's why people may transmigrate to different species of life to get that satisfaction, but for the practice of Krishna consciousness, it's perfectly designed, and that's why this human form of life is a great opportunity. So
Yeah, good point. Ram Prabhu. Ram Prabhu has.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You have to turn it on the handle. Is it on? Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, it was interesting that, so many people think that the body is poorly designed, but it's actually perfectly designed, because you look at the material world, you see, like, there's so many things that people are doing wrong, and they have different prisons that are not perfectly situated. But this body is perfectly situated for you to perfectly come out from the entanglement that you actually been going through, if you have the right opportunity. So it's actually set up in a way for you to punish and enjoy based on what you have done. So it's perfectly situated in a sense. When you look and see, think about it, the animal form is very rarely given that it can actually come out from where it's at. Mm-hmm. But a human form, they have the ability to actually come out from this whole cycle of birth and death. Once in a while we hear in the Bhagavatam or in scriptures that an animal is like elevated out, get to go back home, those pastimes. But this is actually perfectly designed. Think about it. What else can you actually, this body that it can actually be in prison and actually liberate you at the same time? What can they even create that's even going to be able to, the imprisonment that they got is actually not making anybody better. Mm-hmm. It doesn't do anything for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This imprisonment that we have, it actually can liberate us.
Yeah. Because we can realize that, our perilous position, that we are in a bad situation. We need to get out of it, yeah. And we have enough intelligence to understand that, in the human form of life. That's right. Thank you, Prabhu. Anything else from the men? Mataris? Yes, Matari. Yeah.
Turn on. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kind of what y'all was saying with the human body. Not only can the human body elevate, but in a way of imprisonment to being free, but also, like he was talking about animals. For example, if you go to the gym every day, your body can change genetics. So it's a lot of things actually that the body is perfect, because obviously if you're fat, you're eating wrong, you're doing the wrong things, but you can change your genetics if you're putting the right things in your body, or you're going to the gym every day, you're being disciplined,
Yes, good point. It can change, like the iPhone, again, it can't change based on the input.
Right.
But the human body, it can learn, and it can, take on new skills and do all these different things. And yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Abhimanyu Prabhu had something. I'm going to call him. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
No? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Pranam.
I keep going.
I can speak?
Yes.
I just had a thought that you could sort of take it from two angles. One is that in one sense, yeah, the body is very much advanced and it's very, very complex. But from another perspective, the body is perfectly like imperfect. Like someone may ask, like, why, if God's so amazing, why don't I have a perfect body? And then when you have to think, like, why should you have? You know, what do you do to deserve a perfect body? Actually, like the real perfect body is the spiritual body or the spiritual energy. But everything that God makes, whether it seemingly is perfect and imperfect, is done purposefully. You know, so the material body is meant to help us remember that actually these aren't the perfect situation, that they decompose and that they do, you know, you're able to forget, you're able to make mistakes, and you're able to break limbs. And it is amazing that the limbs can heal themselves and so many different things, but ultimately the people are looking, in their eyes, perfect means permanent. But ultimately, the material bodies aren't permanent. And that's what's meant for it to be. Krishna wants to remind us that the only perfect situation is in his superior energy in the spirit world.
Yeah. Good point, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, kind of. I could have proceeded, but I said the most important part.
Okay. I think, well, in there, 8:50, so. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.